Hello, and welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info to go. I'm Adrian Islas.
I'm Michelle Vargas.
I'm Evan Boydston.
I'm Morgan Klein.
And I'm Sarah Fenton. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest news regarding the CSU faculty strike.
And we will discuss some controversy surrounding restrictive voter ID laws in multiple states.
We'll also talk about North Carolina's religious freedom law and the very public debate regarding this potentially discriminatory legislation.
All this and more on this episode of The Report.
Welcome back, Adrian.
Thank you,
How
Michelle.
are you feeling?
I'm still a little under the weather, but
What is that anyways? Who came up with under the weather? So I'm feeling good, so I'm above the weather.
Okay, I'm sick. Let's get to the point here. I'm sick. But I think I'm past the point of getting you guys contagious, so don't worry. But yeah, I'm happy to be back. The last few weeks have been somewhat of a whirlwind for me, dealing with some personal matters and whatnot. But all that aside, I know this is your first or your week back too from missing, I think, last week. And I know you were in Costa Rica.
Yes.
So fill us in on what went on there. How was that?
Well, first of all, I did not put any sunblock on. So if you really look close, I'm like, losing skin over here, but that's besides the fact. I was really honored and blessed to be able to go back to my hometown and cover the very first red carpet award show in the country ever.
Wow.
So it was prompted after they made the very first production, full Costa Rican production team, crew, actors, everything, and that's the first soap opera. So because this is such a big deal for the country, they decided to kind of start, embedding the whole Oscars Hollywood feel to it, my little baby Costa Rica. And so, having covered such prestigious red carpet events here in Los Angeles, they felt right to bring back the Costa Rican. Hey!
There you go. That's so cool.
But it was so great. It honestly was an amazing experience, but I'm glad to be back.
Yeah,
Yes.
that sounds
Great to have you
that's
back.
awesome. This sounds like an awesome opportunity. Just 1 week before proposed strike dates, the California Faculty Association and the California State University System have reached a tentative agreement to raise faculty salaries. The strike was announced earlier this semester by the CFA and was set to begin this week. However, late last week, both parties met during a 48-hour blackout period to review an independent report that agreed with the CFA's request for a 5% salary increase. After those negotiations, both sides reached an agreement that doubled that proposal for a total salary increase of 10.5%. The increase is set to take place over the next 3 years, with a total increase of 7% taking effect by July of 2016 and the final 3.5% increase finalizing in July of 2017. The agreement also asks for a longer vesting period for retiree health benefits from 5 years to 10 and elevating the pay increase minimum for promotions for tenure-track faculty from the current 7.5% to 9%. Although the agreement is still pending approval, the strike has been postponed and classes will resume their normal schedules for the remainder of the spring semester. So this strike has caused a lot of disruptions for a lot of students on campus. And I actually had a professor that said she was going to break the picket line. She didn't want to be quoted, but because she said her first commitment is to the students. So that's why she was willing to break the picket line because of that. And she didn't really care about the increase as much. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But then at the same time, I had another professor who was all for the strike and said, no, this is not right. So what's your guys' take on this? Was this handled in the correct way? For the percentages and everything, all their increase and whatnot?
I think it's great that they're coming to some type of agreement. I think it took too long. We were, a few days out from the strike, and then finally Chancellor Timothy White got in on negotiations, and they had their whole 48-hour hold on strike plans. They finally came to something. I hope it all follows through. They deserve it. I mean, our professors are great. They're preparing students to go out into the career force, so they need... since not depression, but since they lost all that money back then, they
took a 9% salary cut when the recession happened, and they've only came back only a few percentage points. So either way, they're still not at where they're supposed to be. But that's why the 10.5% eventually will get them back where they're supposed to be. So.
Yeah. And it definitely did affect students in terms of their schedules from week to week and what they were preparing for. I mean, we're in stretch run right now, finishing off this spring semester. Comm Week, I know, is next week. And that was greatly affected by the strike. They actually had to cut the events that they had scheduled in half. So Comm Week is only 2 days now.
So it's calm days.
There you go.
Which is awful.
Calm 2 days.
Right, because those of us that are graduating really looked up to those days in terms of networking.
For networking, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that is unfortunate, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm sure the adjunct professors at the very least are happy. They have something to look forward to when they do, in fact, become tenured. A lot of these guys are what they call freeway flyers. They go from Cal State to Cal State, working different part-time jobs instructing. So I'm sure they're content with this at the very least. Tensions continue to grow over controversial new pieces of legislation in North Carolina and Mississippi that some are calling the most aggressive anti-LGBT legislation in recent history. These policies, which are being called religious freedom laws, allow individuals, businesses, and government employees to refuse service to someone by claiming, quote, sincerely held religious beliefs, end quote. While these laws are nothing new, North Carolina's legislation focuses on keeping transgender individuals out of the restrooms that correspond to their gender identities. North Carolina has already seen economic damage from the bill. The NFL has pulled a proposed new building plan in the state. Bruce Springsteen canceled multiple concert dates across the state, and multiple cities across the country have banned all non-essential travel to North Carolina and Mississippi. In 2016 alone, over 100 pieces of legislation like this one have been proposed, with the latest coming this week in South Carolina, Tennessee, and Missouri. So these laws have come under a lot of fire lately and lead to a lot of large-scale boycotts throughout both Mississippi and North Carolina. What do you guys think about these laws? To me, this instantly brings up the most recent story from last year with the Kentucky County Clerk, Kim Davis, who denied gay marriage licenses, even though the Supreme Court had already ruled in, had stated the ruling when it came to that. So I'll start with you, Michelle. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's really unfortunate rather than we're setting back rather than moving forward. As a society at this point, I think we just have to comply and be open. I mean, everyone at this point has been able to fight for their rights, and we all unanimously, contribute to that evolution. So let's move past it. Are we really going to go back to the days when African Americans were set aside in terms of restrooms and education and schools? So now what? Is America always going to set a type of standard and kind of break away rather than unify people?
It definitely, you're right. Yeah, it definitely sounds anti-progressive. Morgan, what are your thoughts on this?
I just think it's so sad. I feel like people are tearing each other down. They have those people that, change their gender and are like confused about what gender they are. So I think that when those people, especially when you were talking about the LGBT story in itself, I think that when you have decided who you are, just be who you are. I don't understand why everybody is tearing people down. Like you said, we fought for these rights, we have these rights. Let's worry about something else that really matters, because why are we gonna keep going back and trying to change it?
Right, and this can actually be broken down. I think what the states are doing and what they'll argue is going to be that, okay, this might be just a simple matter of states' rights versus, what the federal government wants to impose, all collectively on states. Sarah, what do you think about this?
I think it's insane. It's 2016. We obviously haven't learned from our past as a country, and the same thing keeps happening over and over again. We're all human beings. We all deserve the same rights, and the fact that these states are passing these laws is horrible. It's
insane. Yeah, we're an extremely progressive country, and I mean, I think the crazy thing is that they're using this as like a vehicle but pretty much Sorry, I'm trying to collect my thoughts because I have so much going on. Yeah.
To I think maybe turn people towards discrimination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Especially with I mean, I know I tend to be a little more conservative though, just me personally, but also for social issues like this, I don't relate to the Republican Party at all because this is absolutely insane. Like if I like someone, if I'm a friend with someone, just because they're gay or transgender or something like that, that's not going to affect the way that if I'm going to personally like them for their moral and their character and not because of their lifestyle. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous that people are using this as a way. Like, what if they don't even know if they're gay or not? You know,
That's true.
So it's
it's a very good point.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. You know,
at the end of the day, of course, it comes around with the fact that what they try to use is very uncomfortable setting for instance, women when they're in the bathroom and they're, with a transgender, etc. But we're locked up in stalls,
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have parts, okay? Despite 7 federal judges voting that the laws were unconstitutional, Texas' next election will still adhere to strict voter ID laws. These laws require one or more forms of ID to be presented when voting, depending on the state. The restrictive aspects of the bill require the voters to show at least one form of approved identification, so while Texas voters may use their concealed handgun carry permits or military IDs, state university IDs and state employee IDs are not allowed. Under these rules, over 600,000 Texas citizens lack one of the required IDs, with the majority of the group being poor Hispanic or African American voters. One of the lawyers opposing the bill claims that the laws were rigged to favor the GOP and to undermine minority voters, quoting, "Each time they rejected an ID that was disproportionately held by minorities," end quote. In 2014, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals voted that the Texas voter ID laws violated both the Voting Rights Act and the U.S. Constitution. But however, the laws are set to remain in effect through the next election. Texas is not the only state to hold such laws. As you can see in this map obtained from the Washington Post, 34 additional states have similar laws. States in blue require specialty, non-photo identification, while states in mint have strict photo ID requirements. States in yellow have less strict photo ID laws, while states in gray have no identification laws. Obviously, this is a very complex situation, and we're talking about a future president. How do you guys feel? Are they being too strict, or are they doing the proper procedure in order to elect a president and do the voting rights?
Well, I think this is voter disenfranchisement at its finest. I mean, you're basically, negating the right to people in Texas to vote just simply based off of a law that really isn't even legal at this point. I mean, I know it's going to be in effect, throughout the next election, but it goes completely against, like you mentioned, the Voting Rights Act, and it's just really is a shame that things like this continue to happen. Especially in an election year like of this magnitude, where we are going to have a new president.
Well, personally, I think it's important for everyone to just have an ID as it is. So I think it would be okay just for one form of identification if it's your ID. And because then that proves that you are a U.S. citizen and of the state. So I think that's the main thing. They need to find the happy medium in between this. They need to not go so extreme, but they need some sort of identification to prove that they actually are a citizen of the state.
Exactly. I see kind of both sides. I feel like the states have the rights to make their own laws. So if they do require two, I see that side. And then I also see the one idea as well. So.
I just don't understand, too. I get one saying, okay, I live in this state and I'm a citizen and yes, I'm voting. Here's my ID. This is me. What's the second ID for? Like, if a school ID doesn't count, okay, state IDs don't count. Like, I don't get it. I don't get the second ID besides the fact that it's trying to restrict people from voting.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it is important, however, to show an ID because it shows responsibility. If you went through the process of attaining a passport or a license or so on and so forth, you have, I would hope, the education needed to be able to elect. There is, senators, governors, presidents, etc. All elections matter, and they're very serious. The fact that in California, only some places require IDs, or it was the first voter rights, right?
Right, that's true. Yeah, it's very vague, but you essentially, if it's your first time voting, you don't even need an ID. You know.
Oh my gosh.
So it varies from state to state. I think what's surprising though is that this is a big story. Let's not get that wrong. However, it's taking place in the state of Texas. Texas is notorious, a notorious Republican state. The fact that they're, trying to, it's being aimed to deny Hispanics and African Americans the right to vote. I mean, what's the point? No Democrat will ever win Texas, I think, in our lifetime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it seems somewhat of a moot point there.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to some community news. A local student has started a volunteer-based program to help ease the drought and feed the community. Alex Francisco started the Backyard Agricultural Network right here in Orange County to help transform the areas of people's yards that require a lot of water into produce farms that require or reduce water usage. Take a look at some of the work this group is doing and find out how you can get involved.
Hey everybody, my name is Alex, and we have an idea that we think is going to be a really positive force for shaping our community for a better tomorrow. So when we looked around Southern California, one of the first things that we thought of was the California drought. Let's be honest, most of our residential neighborhoods have way more grass than we probably need. And what we wanted to do was not only address the drought, but address the issue that too many people, in fact, didn't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So we decided to create an idea that we're calling the Backyard Agriculture Network. Well, the idea was pretty simple. A network of volunteer-run edible gardens to donate the produce. Not only are we able to save water and combat the California drought, but we're also able to provide fresh produce to people who otherwise would not have access. And this is where we need you to come in. We appreciate anything that anyone can help us out with. Follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. We are the Backyard Agriculture Network. Thanks.
With Bernie Sanders winning 6 of the last 7 primaries and the growing concerns over the contested GOP convention, the race to the White House continues to heat up. The Report correspondent Cassidy Jo Fortin has all of the latest information on the 2016 election.
Thanks, Morgan. The most aggressive debate between the Democratic nominees took place on Thursday, and both candidates came out swinging. Hillary Clinton immediately attacked Bernie Sanders' foreign policy, saying he was unable to talk about it, quote, without having some paper in front of him, end quote. Sanders fought back by attacking her relationship with Wall Street, saying, quote, Secretary Clinton called them out? Oh my goodness, they must have been really scared by this. Was that before or after you received huge sums of money from them, end quote. Clinton still leads in the delegate count, but Sanders is quickly closing in. On the other side of the political spectrum, Trump got another big endorsement, this time from the New York Post, and is swiftly increasing his lead over Ted Cruz with record-high support from the GOP. His lead jumped to 18 points over Cruz and has 756 delegates compared to Cruz's 545. Talk of a potential contested convention started floating around among top GOP officials. If Trump or Cruz cannot clinch the nomination, the delegates could be back up for grabs. Rumors pointed toward House Speaker Paul Ryan being the savior candidate for the GOP, but he quickly shut down speculation in a press conference. Ryan said, quote, count me out. I simply believe that if you want to be the nominee, to be the president, you should actually run for it. I chose not to, therefore I should not be considered, period, end quote. For The Report, I'm Cassidy Jo Fortin.
Many people are unaware that Cal State Fullerton has its own unique and eclectic radio station. I sat down with Titan Radio's marketing coordinator, Sarah Kleinbart, and the technical director, Jake Uras, to discuss just some of the unique ways this radio station is making its presence known here on campus. Take a look.
Just a few days ago, I'd never been inside Titan Radio Studios, but today I'm lucky enough to get an inside look at what makes Titan Radio rock. Come with me, let's take a look. Cal State Fullerton has one of the largest communications programs in the United States. But what most don't know is that Titan Radio is broadcasted worldwide from the basement of the library.
So we broadcast globally. You can be in your car listening on your iPod or iPhone or anything, or you can be on the other side of the world listening.
Titan Radio is Cal State Fullerton's official radio station, providing students with hands-on broadcasting experience.
My show is called I Suoni d'Italia, and it's basically a show that's all about Italian music, and obviously I play the Italian songs.
Every day we have our DJs come in, we always have a staff member present, and usually we just help facilitate the DJs.
Titan Radio is here as a laboratory environment for all students of all backgrounds to use. So whether you're a geology major, math major, music major, or communications major, we welcome all students to come use our facilities to use as an outlet to get their voices heard, to get the music they love heard, and everything. And so we love all the people who come through the station, and we've grown to be one big family all learning together, and it's really great.
Students can get involved by being a DJ in the station or being part of the street team working with marketing and promotions for Titan Radio.
I think Titan Radio is a great thing for people looking to work in the music industry, not only because you're going to be DJing and stuff, but if you hang around you can pick up some things along the way. I think it's also good for people who don't even want to work in the music industry, who are just nerds about music that just want to share their music with people on a platform that they haven't really got to before.
All this talk got me anxious to get into the studio myself. And when Sarah asked,
"Would you like to try DJing?"
I couldn't refuse. But before I could go solo, I wanted to learn from the best. So I sat down with Titan Radio's technical director, Jake Iras.
I'm the technical director here, which means I'm in charge of everything technical. I work the mixing boards, I work the broadcasting systems, I check to make sure nothing's screwing up.
And then I was on my own. This is Sarah Fenton. You're listening to Titan Radio. I hope you learned about Titan Radio. I know I did. And if you want to get involved or if you want to listen live, go to titanradio.org. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my fans. For The Report, I'm Sarah Fenton.
And that does it for this episode of The Report. There are only 5 more weeks left of school, and that means only 3 more episodes of The Report for the semester. But don't worry, we'll be back next week with more news, views, and info. Until then, guys.
Yeah.
I'm Adrian Islas.
I'm Sarah Fenton.
I'm Morgan Klein.
I'm Michelle Vargas.
I'm Evan Boydston. Stay fresh, Fullerton.